The Truman Show follows Truman Burbank, a man who believes he's living an ordinary life in the perfect town of Seahaven. What he doesn't know is that his entire life is actually a television show. He was adopted by a television company before birth, and everyone around him is an actor. The town itself is a massive set, while the show's creator, Christof, controls almost everything Truman sees. As Truman begins noticing strange things around him, he slowly realizes that the life he has always trusted may be a complete lie. His journey becomes a story about freedom, control, fear, privacy, love, and the importance of choosing your own life. At the beginning, Truman's life appears almost too perfect. He greets his neighbors, goes to work, and returns home to his wife, Meryl. Everyone is friendly, the streets are clean, and the town feels completely safe. However, the audience knows that Truman is being watched through hidden cameras and that almost everything around him has been carefully planned. This immediately creates one of the film's main ideas. A familiar reality isn't necessarily a true reality. Truman has grown up believing that Seahaven is the entire world, so he has no reason to question it. The town's perfection is actually part of the trap. Seahaven represents a comfortable life where everything seems right, while hiding the fact that Truman has almost no real control over it. One of Christof's most effective ways of controlling Truman is his fear of water. When Truman was younger, Christof created a fake boating accident that supposedly killed Truman's father. The experience left Truman terrified of the ocean, which makes it much harder for him to consider leaving Seahaven. This shows that Christof doesn't need physical walls to keep Truman trapped. He uses fear instead. Truman technically has the ability to leave, but he has been taught that leaving could be dangerous or even deadly. Water therefore becomes a symbol of both fear and freedom. It's the thing that keeps Truman trapped for most of his life, but it eventually becomes the thing he must face to escape. While Truman is at college, he meets Sylvia, an extra working on the show. Unlike everyone else around him, Sylvia genuinely cares about Truman. She tries to tell him that his entire life is fake, but the producers remove her before she can explain everything. Truman is then told that Sylvia has been sent away to Fiji. Sylvia represents genuine love and honesty because she wants Truman to know the truth, even though telling him could destroy the show. This makes her very different from Meryl, whose relationship with Truman has been planned by the producers. Fiji also becomes a symbol of freedom for Truman. He connects the place with Sylvia, so his desire to find her gradually becomes connected to his desire to escape Seahaven. Truman eventually marries Meryl, but their relationship feels empty because it was never built on genuine choice. Meryl was selected by the producers to become Truman's wife, meaning even one of the most personal decisions a person can make was made for him. Their marriage may look perfect from the outside, but there is no real intimacy behind it. Meryl is constantly performing the role of a loving wife, while Truman believes he's sharing his life with someone who genuinely chose him. This makes the marriage one of the clearest examples of how deeply Truman's life has been controlled. Christof hasn't only decided where Truman lives or where he works. He has manipulated who Truman loves and what he believes a happy life should look like. The contrast with Sylvia makes this even stronger. Truman's feelings for Sylvia happen naturally, while his relationship with Meryl was manufactured from the beginning. As the film continues, strange events begin breaking through Truman's normal routine. A stage light falls from the sky, rain falls only on him, and a radio transmission accidentally describes his movements. He also notices people behaving strangely and repeating the same routines. At first, Truman tries to find normal explanations for these events. However, the more he notices, the harder it becomes to ignore the pattern. This is where the movie connects curiosity with freedom. Truman's first real act of rebellion isn't escaping Seahaven, it's simply asking questions. The falling stage light is also an important symbol because something from the artificial world above Truman literally falls into his reality, creating one of the first visible cracks in the illusion. Truman begins watching the people around him more carefully. He notices that the same people seem to appear in the same places and that the town operates almost like a machine. People follow predictable routines, and the environment seems to change depending on where Truman goes. This is important because the television production depends on Truman behaving predictably. As long as he follows his normal routine, The actors and crew can easily control what happens around him. Once Truman starts behaving differently, the system becomes harder to manage. The repetition, therefore, symbolizes how artificial Seahaven really is. Everyone has a role, while Truman is the only person who doesn't know that he's part of the performance. Once Truman becomes suspicious, he starts trying to leave Seahaven. However, every attempt is blocked by some new problem. There is traffic, an emergency, a warning about danger, or another reason for him to turn around. The producers constantly make the outside world appear frightening while presenting Seahaven as the safest possible place. This shows how fear and misinformation can control someone. Truman has been taught that the unknown is dangerous, so the familiar world becomes easier to accept. The road itself becomes a symbol of choice because Truman wants to decide where he goes, while the production keeps creating obstacles to push him back toward the life that has already been planned for him. Truman's suspicions eventually become too strong to ignore, and he confronts Meryl about their marriage. He questions whether she really loves him and whether their relationship is genuine. Meryl struggles to maintain her performance and eventually breaks character, calling for help before being removed from the show. This is a major moment because one of the most important parts of Truman's life suddenly becomes another piece of evidence that everything around him is fake. Meryl is supposed to be the person closest to him, yet she can't even have an honest conversation with him. Their marriage, therefore, becomes a symbol of the larger lie that Truman has been living inside. Christof tries to regain control by bringing Truman's father back into the show. Truman had believed his father died years earlier, so seeing him again is extremely emotional. Christof uses the reunion to make Truman feel safe and bring him back into his normal routine, while the audience enjoys the emotional storyline. This scene shows how the producers use Truman's emotions as entertainment. Even something as personal as the return of his father becomes a television event. Christof believes he can control Truman by controlling the people and emotions around him. But the plan only works temporarily because Truman has already begun thinking for himself. Christof eventually notices that Truman is no longer behaving normally. Truman has started sleeping in the basement, which makes the producers suspicious. Christof sends Marlin, Truman's best friend, to check on him, only to discover that Truman has secretly escaped through a tunnel. This shows how Truman has changed. Earlier, he simply reacted to whatever happened around him. Now he's making his own plans and hiding them from everyone else. The basement can also be seen as a symbol of Truman's private thoughts. It's one of the few places where he can secretly plan without the production knowing exactly what he's doing. Truman is eventually found sailing away from Seahaven. This is one of the most important moments in the film because he's finally confronting the fear that has controlled him since childhood. He knows the ocean scares him, but he continues anyway because his desire for freedom has become stronger than his fear. The boat also changes meaning at this point. Earlier, boats were connected to the death of Truman's father and therefore represented fear and loss. Now the boat carries Truman toward freedom. This shows that Truman isn't simply running away from his old life. He's taking control of the things that once controlled him. When Christof realizes that Truman is serious about escaping, he creates a massive storm to stop him. The waves become violent and Truman's boat is nearly destroyed. Even members of the production team become uncomfortable with how far Christof is willing to go. This reveals the biggest problem with Christof's relationship with Truman. Christof constantly claims that he cares about Truman and has given him a safe life, but he's willing to risk Truman's life when Truman refuses to obey him. His idea of protection has become another form of control. The storm therefore represents Christof's final attempt to use fear to keep Truman inside the world he created. Truman survives the storm and continues sailing until his boat suddenly hits something. He realizes that he has reached the edge of the world he knows. But instead of finding open ocean, he finds the wall of the enormous soundstage. This is the moment when Truman finally gets physical proof that his entire reality has been artificial. The wall represents all the limits that have been placed around his life, both physical and psychological. For years, Truman believed the world was enormous, but he now discovers that his entire world has literally been built inside a controlled space. Truman eventually finds a staircase leading to an exit door. Christof speaks to him and finally admits the truth. He tells Truman that the artificial world was created to protect him and argues that the real world isn't necessarily better than the one he has created. Christof's argument is interesting because he genuinely seems to believe that he has done something good for Truman. However, the film makes it clear that good intentions don't justify taking away someone's freedom. Truman would rather face an uncertain reality than remain inside a comfortable lie. The exit door, therefore, becomes the strongest symbol of freedom, choice, and independence. Before leaving, Truman gives his familiar goodbye. "In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night." He bows to the audience and walks through the door. After Truman escapes, viewers around the world celebrate his freedom. But almost immediately, they become bored and start looking for something else to watch. This final moment is important because the film also criticizes the audience. Millions of people watch Truman grow up, fall in love, get married, suffer, and discover the truth, yet they quickly move on once the entertainment is over. It makes us question why people enjoy watching the private lives of others. It also makes the audience watching The Truman Show part of the conversation. We have spent the entire film watching Truman too. The film therefore asks us to think about our own relationship with the people we watch for entertainment. The Truman Show is ultimately about the right to choose your own life. Christof gives Truman safety, comfort, and a world that appears perfect, but he takes away something much more important: Truman's freedom to decide for himself. Truman's escape is therefore not simply about leaving Seahaven. It's about choosing truth over comfort and freedom over control. The final door matters because Truman has no idea what is waiting for him outside. For the first time in his life, however, he gets to discover it for himself. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.